Slamdown is sponsored by BODYSLAM and Jam, and WWE Smack Talks, and Impact Fan Nation. Welcome to another episode of Slamdown Livestream. Today we're going to be covering everything Impact Wrestling. If you notice, Charles is not with me yet. I haven't heard from him at the moment, so hopefully he'll be able to get on his computer soon and he'll be able to jump in on this show. A couple of quick things I wanted to cover. For us UK fans, on Friday, they played an old episode of Impact. Now, a lot of fans, and including me, couldn't work out what's happened. You know, they were playing what we've already seen from last week. But apparently what happened is someone at Spike UK has accidentally played the wrong episode. Now, that's fine. You know, apparently Impact Wrestling informed them of this, but I was waiting for the message to come on the screen going, sorry, we've made a technical error. Here is the correct showing of Impact. And then just the shows that were moved the other shows over by an hour or how long. But they didn't do that. They continued that showing. The biggest annoyance for me is we didn't hear anything from Spike. Spike UK said nothing. It was all Impact was letting us know and stuff like that. And I found that quite disappointing. You know, I thought Spike would inform us more and go, look, this, you know, we know what's happened, but they decided to stay mute. The another annoyance for me is the way they've rectified it. They're making Friday coming a double show. Now, I can understand they've rectified it, but the problem I have with that is, you know, guys that review Impact, you know, guys from there are podcasts and streams from UK guys that review Impact Wrestling. By moving it means they can't do a review. You know, I've found a way of watching it, so that's how I'm able to do this review. But it annoyed me. It was, you know, but the problem wasn't with Impact Wrestling. It wasn't Impact Wrestling's fault. It was down to Spike UK. And my main annoyance is, you know, it's your mistake, but you're making us wait a whole week to watch that episode that you made that mistake on. I could understand if they said they moved it to a Saturday. I'd have been fine with that. Or even on a Sunday. You know, I'd have, you know, I thought, you know, at least, you know, it's only a few days later. But a whole week? I think that's disgusting. I really do find that disgusting. And Spike has let us down. Simple fact. They've let us down. Now, another reason why I have problem waiting a week, Facebook, social media. You know, normally, after Impact's aired in America, excuse me, I avoid the internet. Now, what I mean by that is I ignore Twitter, I try to ignore Facebook, because I don't want any spoilers. I know sometimes they can't be avoided, because even the Impact Wrestling post stuff. But I left it. I ignored everything. Sat in front of the TV Friday. Got all excited. And then I'm like, oh, they screwed up. So yeah, my annoyance is with Spike. Not with Impact Wrestling. But I found a way to watch it. So that's how I'm able to do this show for you guys. I know a lot of other people have done the same way I have done, because they just can't wait, and you know they've got shows to do and stuff like that, and need to be on the ball. So, like I said, I've got my way around it. You know, I think Spike needs to do better. I'm going to be honest, I didn't find it the best episode. Compared to last week, I thought this one was a little bit more dull. I think it probably is down to the X Division not being aired. I don't know. I got bored quick. It didn't have that excitement, that edge it normally has. So I found it a bit deflating, this show. I'm trying to be positive about it. It's not as bad as what Raw or SmackDown is. It's still better than them. But from what we've had before from Impact Wrestling, this felt a bit of a downgraded show. It's, you know, the matches were good. It was more like I had the feeling, yeah, it was alright. I didn't have the, oh my god, that was amazing, like I did last week. I'm trying to be positive, but that's the feeling I felt when I was watching this. But as I review the show, I'll pinpoint the few things that I felt lackluster and what they could have improved on. We saw, after being assaulted by EC3 last week, Bruce Pritchard comes out to open Impact Wrestling. Sorry guys. We saw a Tyrus coming down with him, which I found kind of weird. Tyrus is a heel. He's working with Eli Drake. Yes, we know he's all about the money, but he's a heel. So you're telling me he's suddenly being a bodyguard for everybody? I didn't get it. I don't know if they're pulling Tyrus away from Eli Drake, but I just didn't get it. Bruce says that EC3's actions will be dealt with, but right now it's time to deal with another matter. Bruce calls out Lashley, who's wondering who'll be defending the world title against at Slammiversary. EC3 interrupts, declares he will become #1 contender in tonight's triple threat. Magnus, James Storm are out next, and both lay claim to the #1 contendership. Storm doesn't want to wait until the main event, but Bruce says if there's any physical altercation, the match will be called off. Now, my few little problems I had with this is, if this is the #1 contender to go at Slammiversary, then how are you unifying the titles? People that don't know, we have been informed that the end of the GFW titles and everything else ends at Slammiversary. There are new titles being designed. Well, they're nearly complete. There's just 2 titles that are waiting to be finished. So we're going to get all new titles. But it looks like we're going to get new X Division, Tag Team, Grand Championship. But I don't know if that Grand Championship's staying or they're changing that. And then the main title. So they are unifying the companies. But it's just going to stay under the name Impact Wrestling. Which I thought that's the way they were going to do it. And I'm happy this is the way they're going to do it. And they're going to stick with this. You know, I was a bit worried about having so many titles on Impact, but at least we've been informed and we know now that it's not going to stay like this. All the titles are going to be put together. And also that sort of makes sense why some of the Impact Wrestling stars are holding GFW titles, because, you know, it makes sense now because they're going to merge everything together. But if they're merging everything together, then why at Slammiversary are you having a #1 contender match? Because wouldn't it be then, if you're unifying everything, wouldn't Slammiversary be Lashley taking on Patron? You know, isn't that the logical booking? So this part I got kind of confused. Or are we going to have a three-way match at Slammiversary? I just felt it muddied the waters a little bit. It was a bit of like, right, okay. We've seen in the media that you've already said you're unifying them, but you're doing... That's the problem with it. It was over-confusing. And that was one of my main problems with the show. One thing I have said, that I think they should do a King of the Mountain. Now, the way I would do this, announce that the GFW title and Impact World Heavyweight title are being unified for a new title. Now, I wouldn't just announce that and then just have them two fight. No. I would have a King of the Mountain match, which used to be always headlined at Slammiversary. I'd bring that back. I'd have Bobby Lashley, El Patron, as they were the former champions, or, you know, champions of the titles before they've been unified. EC3, Magnus, James Storm. Those 5 competitors could face off at Slammiversary for King of the Mountain. And then they get the title. Then that way, the other parts of the show, you can have, let's say LAX do not win the GFW titles. So you could always have tag team versus tag team, unify the titles. Woman versus woman, unify titles. We haven't really seen Cody Rhodes this tapings, so I don't know if they're going to continue with Cody Rhodes as New Gen champion, or just sort of have dropped the New Gen. That we don't know, but if they unified that, they could do Cody versus, if Moose is still champion, at Slammiversary. That's the way I would go with it. So with what they've done here, it's just confusing. But we'll have to see on what happens next on the next show, on see if there is an end conclusion to all of this. Hope there is. First match we had was KM and Congo Kong taking with Sienna and Laura Van Ness taking on Shira and Braxton Sutter. Now, we haven't really seen much of Braxton Sutter for a few shows. We saw him last week and, you know, but in this angle, they really haven't been the main focus, even though they're targets. But we've seen, like, Kong La Kong going against other opponents, KM going against other opponents, so, which is kind of nice. We haven't been oversaturated with this angle. We haven't been shoved down our throats, bored of it. to be honest. The way they've done it has been perfect. I can't fault them in any way. I really can't fault this angle in any way. It was a good match. Yeah, it just was a solid, good match. But we managed to see KM rolling up Shearer and holding on the tights to get the victory. And then they chased off each other, heading backstage. And then we saw Sienna and Laura Van Ness attacking Ali. And then suddenly something weird happened. And I don't really get it. You know, I've noticed they sort of tweaked Rosemary a little bit, and I'm not sure about it. You know, they've gone with the Hive. I'd rather keep her saying, come and decay with me, keep that, but, you know. But anyway, Rosemary came and helped Ali, and them two just looked at each other, and that was the end of that. So there's obviously going to be something with Ali and Rosemary, but it's the first time Rosemary has actually got involved with the knockouts or done something else with the knockouts. Normally she hasn't associated with anybody. So we can tell by her actions and the way she's been portrayed and used that she's going to be a face. But I'm a bit sceptical, will a face Rosemary work? I'm sceptical. She plays the character brilliantly, but I don't know how it's going to come across as her playing the good guy gimmick. I don't know. I'm just skeptical because she's been such a great heel. But then she could put it out of the bag like EC3 did. EC3 played an amazing heel, and then when he flipped to a face, he was good at that as well, surprisingly. But it could be the same thing with Rosemary. We're just going to have to stay tuned and keep and wait. But another thing, this show was definitely felt like a build-up show. Now, right, here we go. This is going to be the difficult one. Fowley, Baha and Bokara. Baha and Bokara. I'm just going to say Baha and Bokara. Took on the Veterans of War. Now, I like the Veterans of War. They seem like a very dominating team. I'm not too keen on the name change. I would have rather just kept him as Crimson and had it as Crimson and Wilcox instead of changing his name to Mayweather. Yeah, I think they should have just kept with Crimson because he used the Crimson name for so long. You know, that's like suddenly changing Hulk Hogan and start calling him Terry. You know, just keep it as Crimson. But it was still a good angle. It was, I do love the Veterans of War. I do think I'm trying to remember the other team now. Reno Scum I missed. I'm really hoping that they come back soon. You know, to add that little bit more to the tag team division. But it was a good solid match. We saw the Veterans of War get the victory. Now this is the bit I feel 50-50 on. And I'm not sure I like it. Josh Matthews is in the ring and reveals his tag team partner. But before that, Josh played off like I'm sorry, apologised, offered to shake JB's hand. And then him saying, I'm not sorry. And then Scott Steiner's music hits. I get it. He's a veteran. But it feels like what the WWE did with Goldberg. I could understand Impact bringing someone like CM Punk. Or other guys. And any ex-WWE or WCW star. But ones that are younger. Steiner is a lot older. You know, and he doesn't really wrestle that much these days. It's like bringing Kevin Nash in. It's like, why? I get it with the Josh thing, but I kind of don't get it. I don't get the choice of Scott Steiner. I really don't. I don't think it's right. I think they've messed up there. You know, I know you can't use a champion. The only other way I would have done this, and this is the way I would have gone forth with this, in my opinion, I would have had someone like Bram. Bram hasn't been seen on TV for a little while. Have Bram team up with Josh. And had Bram chasing Joseph Parks and doing the whole thing Scott did. And because it's Slammiversary, him going, how about we make this a Monsters Ball? Now, I know people are going to say, we've seen Bram and Abyss before, but this is different. He's playing a new character. I know some people are not keen on Joseph Park, but, you know, look at Foley, for example, how many different characters he played. So I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt. But minus that, I'd have rather seen Bram go against Joseph Park. Because I do want JB to win this, because it should be JB on the booth. So the way I would play this is Joseph Park bleeds, does the whole Abyss thing, gets the victory. That's the way I'd play it. And then flip Joseph Parks into a different character. Now, when I say different character, the way I'd like to see this go is where he is Abyss without the mask. Where he goes, you're right, I am Abyss. But the monster inside me is dead. Do that. Because in that way you can still use the same Abyss movesets and everything else. You're just taking the monster part and element away. Like with what Kane did. I think that's the only way you can really go with this angle. I can't see you going any other way with this. And to me, it's the only way that makes sense. And logically. But anyway, we saw Big Papa Pump, Scott Steiner chased JB into the crowd. Josh hit a low blow on Parks. Steiner looked in the Steiner recliner on Parks as Josh taunts JB from the top rope. And then Josh Matthews replaces JB on commentary for the remainder of the show. Okay. I'm not sold with the whole Scott Steiner. I know he's a veteran. I know it's only a match against Joseph Parks. But I'm not on it. But the one thing I do want to quickly talk about with Scott Steiner. People that don't know, there was legal issues with Scott Steiner and TNA when Dixie was running it for ages. Pardon me, where Dixie is saying he's in dispute with his contract. All of that kind of stuff. So I'm guessing with Jeff Jarrett in the realm that they've sort of washed that to the side. And got rid of that lawsuit and just stopped, basically. That's the only way I can see that. But yeah, I'm just not sold as Scott Steiner. When he came in Before in the past, yeah, it was fine. But now, no, I think he's too old. But backstage, we saw Mackenzie Mitchell interviewing Eli Drake about his attack on the Impact Grand Champion Moose. Moose showed up for revenge, but security held him back. Drake challenges Moose for his title next week. He accepts. Chris Adonis appears, joins Drake on a 2-on-1 assault on Moose before retreating. No, it was not too bad. You know, like that was a good build-up to me. It looks like they might go with Chris Adonis and Drake being attacked. We'll have to wait and see, but no, it wasn't too bad for me. After that, we saw David Richards and Angelina Love taking on Eddie Edwards and Alyssa in a mixed tag team match. This was actually quite an interesting match. I'm hoping this story doesn't get oversaturated, because if it's oversaturated, it will start getting boring and people will start turning off. I sort of don't want to see anything from Eddie Edwards and Alyssa. I don't want to see these battle. I'd rather they get told, right, you two facing off at Slammiversary, and if you touch each other, you're fired for Impact. Why couldn't they do that with these two? Because then that way you're not oversaturating. And then have them in gradual matches where Eddie Edwards goes David Richards in the match. That, you know, because, you know, we're only, I know we're still in May, but we're not that far away from Slammiversary. So the thing is, I don't want this to be oversaturated and have this match going on and on and on and on and on, because we'll just get fed up with it. But like I said, I don't want to see another match from them. The next match I want to see is a Full Metal Mayhem, Eddie Edwards, David Richards. That's the last match I want to see from these two. I don't want to see any more. Because like I said, it'll get oversaturated. People will lose interest. And people will start turning off. And we don't want that. But we did see Eddie Edwards near the end get handcuffed to the ropes. And Alyssa got put through a table. And Eddie Edwards was made to watch. It was a good match, actually. I will give it. It was a good match. We also saw Rockstar Spud give an update on his condition. He says he needs a week of recovery before getting revenge on Swoggle. But what was quite funny, and we know it's done on purpose, but hearing Rockstar's mum calling Jane, and where you hear him, Mum, kayfabe, Mum, kayfabe. I thought it was brilliant. Now, a lot of people say it was stupid. I don't care. I found it funny. I thought it was brilliant. And I like the way they're portraying Rockstar Spud at the moment. Can't fault him. Really can't fault him anyways. And I'm looking forward to what comes next and where they're going to lead with this. A lot of potential in this angle. A lot of potential. So it will be interesting to see where this goes. After that, we had the main event. Magnus, EC3, and James Storm. I did say earlier, my problem with this match is if the winner of this is going bypassing the GF champion, how are you unifying the titles? Because you said because it was said everything ends at Slammiversary, where GFW is gone and it's all Impact Wrestling, and we get the new titles. So, you know. Or they're going to have Alberto take on Lashley at a taping, and Lashley holds both titles and then unifies, gets a new title at Slammiversary. God knows, but They really need to sort something about that quick. It was actually a really close match. The way this match was done, it was probably the match of the night. It was solid. It was to and fro-in. You couldn't predict who was going to win. You couldn't predict who was going to lose. It was a solid match and done perfectly. Absolutely perfectly. Couldn't fault this in any way. I have said this wasn't as strong as last week. It really wasn't. I think it missed. I think we needed an X Division match or a really good tag team match. But still, it was solid. We did see that the end results, it should have been a James Storm victory when Storm hit Magnus with the last call super kick. But EC3 throws Storm out of the ring and gets the pin on Magnus to claim the victory. So basically steals the victory from Storm. But I'm just, you know, another thing that's bugging me, EC3 is a heel. Bobby Lashley is a heel. So you're having heel against heel. Okay. For that to work, it's got to work right. I don't know. I'm just a bit sceptical at the minute. It was a good show, but it was not their best show. That is the best way I'm going to put this. I can't put it any other way. I really can't put it any other way. But yeah. But I'm just going to do a quick go over. Right. Just going to do a quick go over on the news. So, titles are being unified. We're having new titles. That's come out. We've got the big Indian tour coming, which is being recorded. I think it's today. And then over the next few days, it's being recorded in India. I think next week is our last show of Impact in the Impact Zone, and then I think we'll get the shows of India, which will be quite interesting. We already know there's going to be some Indian wrestlers in there, so it's going to be a nice balance. And also, one thing to remember: Impact has done it first. It's a fact. You know, we go to India, then the WWE goes to India. But anyway, we won't get too into that. But should be interesting to see them tapings. I think that's the last lot of tapings, and then we're going to be hitting Slammiversary live. I'm a bit gutted that it's going to be from the Impact Zone, and they're not going to a specialist arena for it, but they are taking it slow. We have had the announcements in the summer that the live events are coming back. We haven't had a live event for Impact Wrestling for a long time. So things are starting to snowball. Like I say to every Impact fan, just give it time. You know, they're doing things step by step. They're not rushing it. You know, they're taking it step by step, building up, and the future looks good. And I'm looking forward to the future of Impact. So, I want to say a big thank you to everybody watching. I've been your host, Ashley Friend. Hopefully, we should be back next week with Charles. But on Tuesday, 9 PM GMT, we've got the Raw review. So I want to thank everybody for watching, and we'll see you again on Tuesday.